Hello and welcome to another episode of the SMEFocus show brought to you by FactoryNOW TV. I'm your host, Chris Greenough, and in this series we will focus on SMEs within the British manufacturing sector. Every week we will discuss and analyse the opportunities and challenges facing our industry in these unprecedented times. I have worked in the sector for over 26 years and I am CCO at SD Technology, one of the leading manufacturers of pressings and assemblies in the UK. So as you can hopefully appreciate, this show is very much for manufacturers by manufacturers. My guest today is William Bridgman, Chairman at Warren Services Limited. Welcome, Will. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much for having me today, Chris.
Fantastic. Nice to have you here. I see you're working from home, or at least this part of the day.
Yeah, well, I've been asked not to do too many Zoom calls in the office because I'm too loud. So if I have a run of Zoom calls, I try and leave the office or plan them all in the afternoon. So it works quite well.
Fantastic. Good stuff. So tell us about Warren Services and what you do.
So Warren Services is a 31-year-old engineering business. So we started off as a manual milling and manual turning shop with a little bit of fabrication. Now we're a full service business. So we make complete machines for people. So a contract manufacturer, really. So we make machinery in the theatre industry. So high-speed winches for theatres around the world. Yep. We make pill coating machines. We do a lot of work in off-site construction. We do a lot around automation projects for different factories and different companies. Some of them we're not allowed to talk about. Yep. We make some equipment in the agricultural sector, but quite a lot in the sustainability sector now with electric vehicle charging systems, second life EV battery storage. Yeah, so a real mixture. We don't specialize in one sector, and unlike you, where you're experts in the pressings, yes, we do laser cutting, high pressure water cutting. We've got a decent sized machine shop from sliding head machines up to we can turn 4 meters long and 500 diameter. We just put our biggest milling capability in, which is 3 meters by 1 meter. We have a big steel fabricating department up to 10 tons into a coded standard. A paint facility, so shot blasting, metal spraying, painting, about 12 meters in length we can do, and then a Qualicoat approved powder coating facility for our architectural work. And then we have punching and panel bending for the balcony systems, and then a electromechanical assembly and test department, and then a engineering and new product introduction team that we actually do now. Where we started off manual milling and manual turning, when I joined the business 20 years ago, I wanted to sort of, they say move up the value chain. I don't know if that's really a proper thing, but we started doing assemblies, high level assemblies, making complete machines for people. Then we started wiring them. Then we started building the control panels. And then we've obviously ended up with our own mechanical and electrical design and development department. So some of our customers, our core though is contract manufacturing. So our amazing customers around the world have a vision, a set of engineering drawings, and we bring it to reality.
So you're working with the customer and taking that initial project and taking it through feasibility and design and then production.
Yeah, generally they've done the design. We help with the design for manufacture, but some of our clients are like, we're busy in design. Can you take this whole project on? And we will design it electrically and mechanically to their specification. So we're working on some high density Wi-Fi systems at the moment, which is a project that's been done. Actually, I just took a call about that before this. So yeah, it's a real diverse mix. And I think that diverse mix has really protected us during COVID. Yes. We've always been strong in high speed automation winches for one of our customers, and then a lot around live music, big like stage spectaculars. Well, if we were solely relying on that industry, you wouldn't be there. Yeah, we wouldn't have 120 staff employed at the moment. There'd probably be 20, if that. Yeah. So our diversity, we do quite a lot in the online grocery delivery sector. So that's just exploded, that work, not just in the UK, but globally. So yeah, it's quite a range.
Every one of your projects is then completely different. So you've got a massive variety. And that skill base that you need to be able to deal with that variety is something that I know you and your team are passionate about. So in terms of apprenticeships, I know you and your father have done a massive amount of work on apprenticeships. And what's the driver behind that? Why do you need to bring new people into the business all the time?
There's a number of factors. You cut us in half and we've got apprenticeship like a stick of rock. Both my grandfathers, my last grandfather died last year at the age of 99. They were both apprentices to vicars. And that was in the days of you started in boys service at 14 and then you were allowed to do the apprenticeship at 16. And I was we've actually just formed an apprenticeship board. Yeah. So I now have a board of apprentices, like a shadow board. So we don't talk about their apprenticeships. They help me solve complex business challenges. So that kicked off 2 weeks ago. So I was telling them the story, about, it's all right, you guys moan it's hard, with your day release. There was no day release in those days. You went to your apprenticeship training in the evening after you've done your 40 or 50 hours of work. My father was an apprentice. So yes. I think we've got that history. Also, my father ran a business for someone else that moved from Surrey when they were moving businesses from the south up to like Norfolk and Suffolk, where we are in the east. And that was 44 years ago. Norfolk wasn't a hotbed of engineering, so you didn't have any choice. You had to train people. So we had the history, we had the necessity. And I think I've taken on my father's passion, the same as my sister who is our HR director, we just love developing people within the business. It's what gives us a kick. We're more interested in that than the profitability of the company. Sometimes we have to be profitable, but seeing a young person enter the business at 16 or 18 and then develop, we've got a number of our managers and our directors have come through that program, not necessarily just our program, but through that apprenticeship route. I think particularly now with degree level apprenticeships, which we've really embraced at Warren, and we're developing those as we go along. It's been a rough ride, but we've attracted a different type of person into the business. We'd always been very successful at attracting very good craft-based apprentices. Level 3, want to be a welder, want to be a machinist or a painter.
Get to a certain level, but then they wouldn't want to progress on from that.
Yeah, or they would, but maybe level 4, HNC, HND. But we're now attracting people in that would have traditionally gone to Russell Group universities, really good standard candidates from an academic perspective, but are really passionate about manufacturing and engineering. Absolutely. And it means that we can keep them in our business. Before, if we let really smart young people go to university in Sheffield or in London or in Birmingham, where I went, the likelihood is they're going to stay around there and we're going to struggle to get them back. We might attract them back when they decide they want to have a family and want to live near the countryside and, the fresh air and it's nice and house prices are cheaper. But it just drives our business forward. They are the leaders of the future. A guy that joined us, he was an apprentice somewhere else. He joined us as a welder. He's now just joined our board as our operations director.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And the young men and women in our business see that and say, Kieran, he was an apprentice welder at 16. He's now the welding manager. I could do that. He's now CSIP qualified. He's been to the Welding Institute. You show that progression and they just come up with ideas. And, it just keeps the business moving forward. Quite often people say to us, how do you manage to, attract all these apprentices? It seems to be easy for you. And I'm like, well, what have you done about it? And they're like, we went to the school once. Yeah. I'm like, my dad's been doing this for 25 years.
His passion and your passion, you carried on with that. You've got to engage with the schools, the colleges. You can't rely on your business name selling itself. You've got to back it up with the hard work that you guys have been doing.
And I think it's like doing things like this and being happy to talk to the local press or the local paper, because those young people don't make that decision on their own. No. Their parents affect that decision. So if they've seen you in the paper and like a few weeks ago, the local schools didn't have enough computers for, the homeworking. So we got together a few other business people in Thetford, raised 25 grand, bought them some computers. All those businesses are people are like, oh, right, yeah, Warren did that, Pearson Capital Projects, other, it keeps you in, MDs are like, quite often they're their own worst enemy. They won't put themselves out there and then expect people to come and knock on their door wanting an apprenticeship.
Yeah, well, you certainly don't shy away from a bit of publicity or speaking on the radio or whatever it is. But that, again, I'm with you. That's the only way really to promote your business to the next generation, because they expect somebody who's willing to put themselves out there and put some energy into what they're doing.
Yeah, we've had to modify. We generally have a lot of work experience people in the business, whether that's below 16, that's less often now, 16, college, university. We've rolled that back, not just because of COVID, but because we've embraced this Kickstart program. So I always see if kids are in education, at least they've got something. We've got this other big group of young people who are not in education and have not got a job. So we were one of the first to on board with that Kickstart program. So we've got a number of those people. So that's filled up a lot of those places. But I've been going into our local, say UTC, and doing big group workshops, like work experience projects with the whole year. So we still keep that connection, but still can do some of it remotely because of COVID. We've done remote visits. So we did a load of videos so we could then have me, my ops director, a couple of apprentices, so the kids could watch the videos and then ask us questions rather than them all coming to the business, which is more tricky at the moment. Yeah,
because you've had to think in a different way of engaging with youngsters because of the COVID outbreak. And a lot of this online or videos online, video interviews, I think that's going to be a way forward anyway, because you can actually take your manufacturing sector into schools.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So it's a real way forward.
Yeah, more opportunity to see more different things.
Yes, absolutely. And what about, we talked about COVID, what about the impact of Brexit on your business? Either in a negative or a positive way. What's the impact been since the start of January?
Just a bit more paperwork. So all these import codes, export codes, making sure we've changed our documentation to have the weights on. And I forget what the terminology was, but my finance director's dealt with all of that. You have to have the export code on there, and you have to make sure, we don't want it to be X works, we want it some other. So we've had to change
FCA the contract or whatever it is.
So make sure we've got the paperwork so the VAT man doesn't chase after us for non-VAT. So we had a few bumps in the road with some of our European suppliers initially, but to be honest, not too bad. I think more for us, we just see disruption as an opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're small, we're only 120 staff. We're agile. We change because we don't do a fixed thing. We quite often we build customers that we want to retain for years, but we're doing families of products or one-off but repeat for that customer. That type of work. We're used to changing and swapping and doing new projects all the time. So it's just a bit more paperwork. But I think the problems with the container port system and the increase in shipping costs, particularly from China, has meant we're working on a really big project of reshoring a product that's been made in China for the last 5 years. That actually, when you look at the cost of the import, the lack of communication, the guy that runs this business lived in China for 4 years to get it up and running and still couldn't get it how he wanted it. He's like, but you've done me the drawings and new models in a week, and now you're making the part, and you're telling me I don't have to pay for it 6 weeks in advance. You know what it's like in manufacturing. You normally get paid net 30 days end of month or 60 days end of month. I'm saying to him, well, I want paying on when I dispatch it, and he thinks that's brilliant because he's been
so it's a saving.
Yeah, he's been paying 8 weeks before he even gets it, and then he's having to pay for a warehouse to store it and dispatch. And I said, well, I'll just make it, put it in a box, and then it can go directly from my factory. And he's like, oh, that's brilliant. I hadn't even thought about that. So we're going to be probably 50% more expensive to make the actual item.
Yes.
But I think cheaper overall.
That total cost, and if you put in there delivery, if you put in there cost of quality, that's where I think the biggest impact is going to come for the UK manufacturing sector with this real piece around reshoring. A company like yours, company like ours, who can be disruptive, think about different ways of working. So that goes back to some of the conversations I've had with Asif, Mogul at Autodesk, thinking of making your product not just in a different way, marketed in a different way, speak to customers in a different way. And actually that whole offering is where UK manufacturing will come to the fore, I think.
Because he couldn't change the design with the Chinese factory, he had a product that weighed 40 kilos, say. So he had to send it on a pallet, which cost £50, say, to deliver to a house. The smaller product weighs 20 kilos, and you can send 20 kilos by DPD for £6.
Yeah.
So what we've done is designed it so his product now is in 2 pieces. So we can send, just by doing some design changes, he can now send 2 parcels at £6 each, £12, rather than £50. And the only reason he's been able to do that is because we can talk to each other and quickly go, oh, what about doing it like this? Talking about ASIV at Autodesk, sharing the models for Fusion, and him going, yeah, that's exactly what I want. And the fact that even with COVID, we have a COVID safe policy of limiting the amount of visitors, but he came and visited. We can talk and we can show him what we're going to do all within, a week, not flying to China, waiting 10 weeks for it to come back. And we don't have to make it as cheap as them, but we can design the cost out. And it's not even the cost of the product, it's designing out the cost of delivery, which seems...
So that's where UK can really come to the fore now, because we have got the engineers, we have got the know-how, we need to start thinking in a different way. How can we compete in a different way? And I see 2021 for UK manufacturing is going to be a boom year once we get through this next couple of months and get back to normality, so to speak, when COVID and the vaccines rolled out. So what are your plans for 2021 for Warren Surfaces?
If all goes well, 20% growth, which is good for us, a company our size, employing more apprentices. We're actually recruiting for an apprentice at the moment for our maintenance department. We took 3 on in September, probably take another 2 or 3. We're doing some strategy work with the MTC at Coventry, where we know what we wanted to do, but we maybe didn't communicate in the best way. So I reached out to them. I'd worked with them on some digital stuff before, which is a passion of mine. So we've got a 10-day project with them, which is 50-50 funded because we're an SME. So we're getting some really high quality, input, and about every twice a month, we're doing a half-day session. So we're looking and then to push that down through the business. We're working on a fit for offshore renewables. So we were one of 10 companies selected to run a pilot of half of it is around the European Business Excellence model, and the half of it is around sector-specific training in offshore renewables. Okay. So obviously, because of the East Coast and the wind and potential hydrogen production, that's a market we see, really growing. Mm-hmm. The other big thing for us this year is we want to be, I think I can say it now because I haven't told this anyone, not in public. We want to be carbon neutral, scope 1 and scope 2 by the end of the year. We've done a lot of installing renewable technology, energy efficiency, building insulation, green power, putting our own solar up. So we've got more solar projects in the pipeline. We've reduced, I think, over the last 4 years, our carbon is down from, say, 1,000 tons, scope 1 and scope 2. So this isn't the metal we buy. Another, and we're getting down near more like 350. So the next big thing is we use about the amount of gas that equivalents about 200 tons of carbon. Well, that's a big project for us this year. So we will have to do some offsetting, but we're looking at gold standard offsetting, not just box ticking offsetting. So
absolutely,
I see that sustainability journey as it allows us to attract great young people into the business. It allows us to attract really good customers who believe in that type of thing. Yep. And also the sustainability journey is opening up potentially lots of opportunities in our sector for making sustainable products or doing new solar systems or battery technology I think is amazing. Or for you guys, lightweighting of vehicles,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the future.
Yeah. The lighter you can make anything. It's like with the offsetting. It's a lot cheaper to reduce your emissions rather than trying to pay to offset. And I think, that's important for us. And we're always looking to change. We've got a lot on in the digital space as well. The transformation we're making there that we've been done for years. But it's good. I'm really looking forward to the year. What we're saying, we're 2 months. I can't believe where the 2 months gone. And also the exciting thing is like we're one of the first companies to onboard with this twice weekly lateral flow testing. So we've been testing all staff twice a week on this government program. And we picked up our first asymptomatic person. So they had no symptoms, but they could have gone on to spread within the business.
Right, so, the workforce, so,
we see that, and we see the numbers coming down now, every night on the news at 10, and that just, because I feel really sorry for, our sector has been affected, but I've got friends that work in own hospitality businesses, hotels, restaurants, it's been pretty grim for them.
Yeah, we've been able to work and keep going through. A lot of sectors just are decimated and can't, unfortunately. But Will, it's fantastic to hear everything you're doing at Warren Services. I think this is one of the longest interviews we've had, but we could talk for another half an hour because you're that interesting. You've got so much planned for 2021. Thank you for your time today, and I hope we have you later on in the year so we can hear about how the carbon neutral journey has gone. Yeah,
it'd be a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Fantastic. Thank you, Will.
Cheers.
That brings us to the end of another show. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to meeting more of our brilliant SME manufacturers like Will next week. If you would like to get in touch with the show with a comment, a suggestion, or even to appear on a future episode, please email us tv@mtd.media. Thank you for watching. Thank you to Will. So from me, Chris G at SDE, goodbye.